It was a quiet, peaceful night in the small suburban town of Riverdale. The Wilson family, like most of their neighbors, had settled in for the evening. Their young son, Timmy, fast asleep in his bed. Little did they know that their peaceful existence was about to be shattered. Unbeknownst to the slumbering residents, a massive, sleek spacecraft hovered silently above the town, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to the human eye. The vessel belonged to the Galactic Council, a powerful alliance of alien civilizations that had long kept a watchful eye on the developing human race. Deep within the ship's pristine laboratories, a group of Galactic Council scientists were preparing for a covert operation, the abduction of several human children. These young, impressionable minds were seen as valuable specimens, ripe for experimentation and manipulation in the Council's nefarious plans. Without warning, a beam of intense light pierced the darkness, connecting the spacecraft to Timmy's bedroom. In a matter of seconds, the young boy was lifted from his bed, his cries for help muffled by the eerie silence of the night. The Galactic Council's agents worked swiftly and efficiently, carefully securing the child and transporting him to the waiting ship. As the beam of light retracted, the spacecraft silently disappeared into the night sky, leaving no trace of its presence. By the time Timmy's parents, Sarah and Jack, awoke to the sound of their son's muffled cries, it was too late. Their beloved child had vanished without a trace. In a panic, the Wilsons immediately contacted the local authorities, pleading for help in locating their missing son. The police launched a comprehensive investigation, canvassing the neighborhood and interviewing every possible witness. However, their efforts were met with a frustrating lack of evidence or leads. As days turned into weeks, the search for Timmy Wilson grew increasingly desperate. The heartbroken parents refused to give up hope, certain that their child was still alive and in need of their rescue. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council's scientists continued their invasive experiments on the abducted children, studying their physiology and mental capabilities with cold clinical detachment. Across the globe, similar scenes of heartbreak and despair played out as more and more human children vanished without a trace. Families were torn apart, grappling with the agonizing uncertainty of their loved ones' fates. The authorities, despite their best efforts, were powerless to stop the Galactic Council's systematic abductions. In the shadows, a small group of human scientists had begun to piece together the disturbing puzzle. They had long suspected the existence of advanced extraterrestrial civilizations, and the sudden rash of missing children only served to confirm their worst fears. Through covert channels and painstaking research, they uncovered evidence of the Galactic Council's involvement in the abductions. Dr. Emily Sinclair, a renowned xenobiologist, was at the forefront of this clandestine investigation. With a team of trusted colleagues, she pored over the limited data available, searching for any clue that could lead them to the missing children. Their findings were as horrifying as they were unbelievable. The Galactic Council has been abducting human children for years, Dr. Sinclair announced to her team, her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and outrage. They're conducting invasive experiments on them, studying their physiology and mental capabilities. We have to stop them before they can do any more harm. Her colleagues nodded solemnly, their own faces etched with a mixture of determination and fear. They knew the risks they were taking, but the thought of innocent children suffering at the hands of the Galactic Council was too much to bear. As they prepared to take their findings public, a sense of dread began to permeate the air. The Galactic Council, aware of the human scientists' investigation, had already set in motion a plan to silence them and conceal their crimes forever. The battle lines had been drawn, and the fate of humanity's children hung in the balance. The revelations made by Dr. Emily Sinclair and her team sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Despite the initial disbelief and skepticism, their evidence of the Galactic Council's systematic abduction and experimentation of human children was undeniable. Sinclair and her colleagues had meticulously pieced together a damning case, drawing from a variety of sources, including satellite imagery, intercepted communications, and the testimony of a few brave whistleblowers. The picture that emerged was one of pure horror. The Galactic Council had been targeting human children for years, subjecting them to a range of invasive and unethical experiments. As the news spread, public outrage reached a fever pitch. Families whose children had vanished without a trace now had a horrifying explanation for their disappearance. Protest marches and candlelight vigils sprang up in cities around the world as the global community united in its demand for action. Governments were forced to acknowledge the existence of the Galactic Council and the threat they posed to humanity. Behind closed doors, heated debates erupted as world leaders grappled with the implications of this startling revelation. Some advocated for a measured diplomatic approach, while others called for immediate retaliation against the alien civilization. In the midst of the turmoil, Sinclair and her team continued their investigations, determined to uncover the full extent of the Galactic Council's crimes. They pored over the limited data they had managed to obtain, analyzing it with a level of detail and precision that bordered on the obsessive. "These children are being subjected to unimaginable horrors," Sinclair said, her voice trembling with a mixture of anguish and determination. "We have to find them and bring them home, no matter the cost." The scientists worked tirelessly, fueled by a sense of purpose that transcended their own safety. They knew that the Galactic Council would not take kindly to their meddling, and that their lives were now in grave danger. Sure enough, the Galactic Council soon became aware of the human scientists' investigation. In response, they dispatched a team of highly trained operatives to eliminate the threat and cover up their crimes. Under the cover of darkness, the Galactic Council's agents descended upon the research facility where Sinclair and her colleagues were working. The scientists were caught off guard, their security systems proving no match for the alien technology. One by one, they were systematically incapacitated and dragged away, their screams and pleas for help echoing through the empty corridors. Sinclair, who had been working late in her office, managed to evade the initial assault. Terrified but resolute, she quickly gathered what evidence she could and fled the facility, her mind racing with the horrifying realization that her team had been captured. As she made her way to a safe location, Sinclair knew that she was now a target, hunted by the Galactic Council for the knowledge she possessed. But she also knew that she could not give up, not when the lives of countless children were at stake. Reaching a secure safe house, Sinclair set to work, determined to find a way to expose the Galactic Council's crimes to the world. She knew that the odds were against her, but the thought of those innocent children suffering at the hands of their captors fueled her determination. "I will not rest until I have done everything in my power to bring those children home," Sinclair vowed, her voice laced with a steely resolve. "The Galactic Council will pay for their cruelty, mark my words." As she began to put her plan into motion, Sinclair knew that she was treading on dangerous ground. The Galactic Council was a formidable enemy, and they would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. But she was willing to risk it all, driven by a burning desire for justice and the unwavering belief that humanity would rise to the occasion. The battle lines had been drawn, and the fate of the abducted children hung in the balance. The Galactic Council's agents worked swiftly and efficiently, apprehending Dr. Emily Sinclair's colleagues and silencing them for good. The scientists, who had dedicated their lives to uncovering the truth, were now imprisoned in the Council's remote facilities, their fate uncertain. Sinclair, having narrowly escaped the initial assault, was now a hunted woman. She knew that the Galactic Council would stop at nothing to eliminate her and any evidence she had managed to gather. Forced to go into hiding, she found herself in a race against time, desperate to find a way to expose the Council's heinous crimes to the world. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council sprang into action, deploying its vast resources to cover up any trace of their involvement in the abductions. They dispatched teams of operatives to scour the globe, infiltrating government agencies and suppressing any information that could lead to the truth. The Council's influence was far-reaching, and they wielded it with ruthless efficiency. Witnesses were silenced, data was corrupted or destroyed, and anyone who dared to speak out against the alien civilization was swiftly dealt with. As the public's demands for answers grew louder, the Galactic Council's cover-up became increasingly elaborate. They orchestrated a campaign of misinformation, feeding the media a steady stream of false leads and fabricated evidence to throw the authorities off their trail. In the face of this onslaught, Sinclair found herself increasingly isolated and overwhelmed. She had lost contact with her team, and the weight of the responsibility she now carried threatened to crush her. But she refused to give up, driven by an unwavering determination to see justice served. Sinclair knew that she couldn't confront the Galactic Council alone, not with the resources and power they wielded. She needed allies, people who were willing to stand with her against this formidable enemy. And so she turned to the one group she knew could help, the global scientific community. Reaching out through encrypted channels, Sinclair began to establish a network of like-minded individuals, researchers and scientists who shared her outrage and desire for the truth. Slowly but surely, a resistance movement began to take shape as more and more people joined the cause. Together, they worked tirelessly, pooling their knowledge and resources to uncover the Galactic Council's secrets. They hacked into the Council's communication networks, intercepted their transmissions, and pieced together a damning case against the alien civilization. As the evidence mounted, Sinclair and her allies knew that they had to act quickly. The Galactic Council was becoming increasingly desperate, resorting to ever more extreme measures to cover up their crimes. They had already silenced Sinclair's colleagues, and she knew that she and her newfound allies were next on the Council's hit list. With time running out, Sinclair made the difficult decision to go public with what she and her team had discovered. She knew that it was a risky move, one that could put her and her allies in grave danger, but she also knew that it was the only way to ensure that the truth would be heard. In a series of carefully orchestrated press conferences and media appearances, Sinclair and her team unveiled the shocking revelations about the Galactic Council's abduction and experimentation of human children. The global response was immediate and overwhelming, as the public's outrage and demands for action reached a fever pitch. The Galactic Council, faced with the undeniable evidence and the public's unwavering resolve, found themselves in an increasingly precarious position. They could no longer rely on their tactics of intimidation and suppression, and they knew that they had to take decisive action to protect their interests. As the world watched with bated breath, the stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of the entire galaxy. The Galactic Council's cruelty had been exposed, and now, humanity was poised to deliver its own brand of justice. The revelations shared by Dr. Emily Sinclair and her team of whistleblowers had sent shockwaves through the global community. The horrific details of the Galactic Council's abduction and experimentation of human children had sparked outrage and a demand for immediate action. Governments around the world, once reluctant to acknowledge the existence of the Galactic Council, now found themselves under immense pressure to confront the alien civilization and secure the safe return of the missing children. In the halls of power, frantic discussions and debates erupted as world leaders grappled with the implications of this crisis. Some advocated for a measured diplomatic approach, believing that reason and negotiation could prevail. Others, however, were adamant that the Galactic Council's crimes were unforgivable and that a more forceful response was necessary. Amid the chaos, Dr. Sinclair and her allies continued to work tirelessly, providing governments with a steady stream of damning evidence and intelligence. They knew that time was of the essence, as each passing day increased the risk of the abducted children suffering further at the hands of their captors. Finally, after weeks of heated deliberation, the United Nations convened an emergency session to address the crisis. Representatives from the world's most powerful nations gathered, their faces etched with a mix of determination and trepidation. It was the President of the United States who stood to address the assembly, his voice commanding and unwavering. "The time for diplomacy has passed," he declared, his words carrying the weight of a nation's resolve. "The Galactic Council has committed unspeakable atrocities against our children, and we will no longer stand idly by and allow this to continue." The President then delivered an ultimatum, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. "We demand the immediate and unconditional return of all the abducted children, unharmed and without further delay. Failure to comply will result in consequences that the Galactic Council cannot even begin to fathom." The representatives from the Galactic Council, who had previously dismissed the human complaints as mere posturing, now found themselves in an uncharted territory. They had never anticipated such a forceful and unified response from the tiny, seemingly insignificant civilization of Earth. "This is preposterous," one of the Galactic Council's delegates shouted, his voice laced with a mixture of indignation and disbelief. "The children are in our custody, and we will do with them as we please. Your petty demands hold no sway over the Galactic Council." The room erupted into a cacophony of protests and angry retorts as the human representatives refused to back down. Tensions reached a boiling point, and it seemed as though the negotiations had reached an impasse. In the midst of the chaos, Dr. Sinclair stood, her gaze unwavering as she addressed the Galactic Council's delegates. "You have underestimated us, and that will be your downfall," she said, her voice calm and resolute. "These children are our most precious resource, and we will stop at nothing to ensure their safe return. The Galactic Council has committed a grave injustice, and we will see that you are held accountable." The Galactic Council's representatives exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence shaken by the humans' unwavering determination. They knew that they were facing a formidable adversary, one that was willing to go to great lengths to protect its own. As the session drew to a close, the President of the United States once again took the floor, his eyes narrowing as he addressed the Galactic Council's delegates. "You have been warned," he said, his words laced with a quiet but unmistakable threat. "The clock is ticking, and the fate of those children rests squarely on your shoulders. We will be watching, and we will not hesitate to act." The Galactic Council's representatives departed the United Nations building, their minds racing with the implications of this unexpected confrontation. They knew that they could no longer dismiss the human race as insignificant, for they had proven themselves to be a force to be reckoned with. The stage was set for a clash of civilizations, and the fate of the abducted children hung in the balance. The Galactic Council's arrogant dismissal of humanity's demands had only served to further enrage the global community. The world leaders, backed by the unwavering support of their citizens, were now more determined than ever to secure the safe return of the abducted children. Recognizing the futility of further negotiations, the human governments turned their attention to a more proactive approach. A covert, highly sophisticated military operation to rescue the captive children. At the forefront of this endeavor was a specialized team of the world's most elite special forces operatives, handpicked for their expertise, skill, and unwavering commitment to the mission. They had been training for months, honing their abilities and preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. As the final preparations were put in place, the team gathered for a final, somber briefing. Their commander, a seasoned veteran, knew the gravity of the situation they were about to face. "This is not going to be an easy mission," he said, his voice low and serious. "We're up against an enemy with capabilities that far exceed our own. But we have no choice. Those children are counting on us, and we cannot let them down." The team members nodded in solemn agreement, their eyes filled with a determination that belied their youth and relative inexperience. They knew the risks, but they were willing to put everything on the line to ensure the safe return of the abducted children. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the team embarked on their covert operation, their state-of-the-art stealth aircraft slicing through the night sky with the grace of a predator. Their target was a heavily fortified Galactic Council facility, hidden deep within the recesses of an alien world. The infiltration was a tense and nerve-wracking affair, with the team navigating a labyrinth of advanced security systems and hostile alien patrols. But their training and coordination proved to be invaluable, as they systematically neutralized each obstacle in their path. Finally, they reached the heart of the facility, where the captive children were being held. The sight that greeted them was one of pure heartbreak and horror. The young, frightened faces, the signs of abuse and experimentation, the sheer vulnerability of their captive state. Without hesitation, the team sprang into action, engaging in a fierce, tactical battle with the Galactic Council's guards. Laser fire crisscrossed the dimly lit corridors as the human operatives fought with a ferocity born of righteous fury. Despite the overwhelming odds, the team fought with unwavering determination, their skills honed to a razor's edge. One by one, the Galactic Council's forces fell, unable to match the sheer tenacity and precision of their human adversaries. As the battle raged on, the team's commander made a fateful decision. Seeing an opportunity to secure the children's escape, he ordered a daring distraction, sacrificing himself to ensure the safe extraction of the captives. With heavy hearts, the team members watched as their commander made the ultimate sacrifice, holding off the Galactic Council's reinforcements long enough for the children to be safely evacuated. It was a heartbreaking moment, but one that only served to strengthen their resolve. As the team made their way back to the extraction point, the children, battered but alive, clung to them with a mixture of relief and gratitude. The weight of their responsibility was palpable, and the team members knew that their mission was far from over. Once safely on board the aircraft, the team leader turned to the children, his eyes filled with a steely determination. "You're safe now," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. "We're going to make sure that the Galactic Council pays for what they've done to you, and to all of us. This is just the beginning." The children, still shaken by their ordeal, nodded in understanding, their faces etched with a newfound resilience. They knew that their rescue was only the start of a much larger conflict, one that would determine the very fate of humanity itself. As the aircraft streaked through the night sky, the team members braced themselves for the inevitable backlash from the Galactic Council. They knew that their bold, daring operation had shattered the alien civilization's illusion of invincibility, and that the repercussions would be severe. But they were ready, their resolve hardened by the horrors they had witnessed and the courage they had displayed. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity, and now they would face the full force of its vengeance. As the rescued children were reunited with their families, the world erupted in a chorus of relief and celebration. The harrowing ordeal they had endured had captivated the global community, and their safe return was seen as a triumph of the human spirit. However, the euphoria was short-lived, as the realization dawned that this was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. The Galactic Council, humiliated and enraged by the audacious rescue operation, was not about to let the matter rest. In the wake of the operation, the human governments found themselves facing a daunting challenge. They were now confronted with the task of securing the safety of the rescued children, while also preparing for the inevitable retaliation from the Galactic Council. "This is not over," warned the President of the United States, his voice grave and determined. "The Galactic Council will not stop until they have reclaimed those children and made us pay for our defiance. We must be ready." Across the globe, military forces were put on high alert, and intelligence agencies worked around the clock to gather information on the Galactic Council's movements and intentions. The stakes had never been higher, as the fate of humanity itself hung in the balance. Meanwhile, the rescued children were slowly adjusting to their newfound freedom, their fragile psyches scarred by the horrors they had endured. Counselors and therapists were brought in to help them cope with the trauma, but the emotional wounds ran deep. Dr. Emily Sinclair, the woman who had first uncovered the Galactic Council's crimes, found herself at the center of the aftermath. As the world's attention turned to her and her team, she was inundated with requests for interviews, testimonies, and public appearances. Though the recognition was gratifying, Sinclair was haunted by the knowledge that her colleagues had been captured and silenced by the Galactic Council. She knew that their sacrifices had been instrumental in the success of the rescue operation, and she was determined to ensure that their efforts were not in vain. "We owe it to them, and to all the children who have suffered, to see this through to the end," Sinclair said, her voice laced with a steely resolve. "The Galactic Council will be held accountable for their actions, and humanity will emerge victorious. As the international community rallied behind Sinclair and her team, demands for justice and reparations intensified. Governments around the world issued strongly worded statements, calling on the Galactic Council to acknowledge their crimes and make amends. However, the Galactic Council remained defiant, refusing to concede defeat or take responsibility for their actions. In a bold and unexpected move, they issued an ultimatum of their own, warning the human race to cease their meddling and submit to the Council's authority. "You have overstepped your bounds, humans," the Galactic Council's representative declared, his voice dripping with contempt. "The children in our custody are ours to do with as we please. Any further interference will be met with consequences that you cannot even begin to fathom." The human response was immediate and unequivocal. Governments across the world denounced the Galactic Council's threats and vowed to take all necessary measures to protect their citizens and secure the return of the remaining captive children. "We will not be cowed by your empty threats," the President of the United States said, his words laced with a quiet fury. "The Galactic Council has committed unspeakable atrocities, and they will be held accountable. If they choose to escalate this conflict, then so be it. We will meet them with the full force of our might." As the tension between humanity and the Galactic Council reached a boiling point, the world held its breath, bracing for the inevitable clash of civilizations. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of the abducted children, as well as the future of the human race, hung in the balance. The tense standoff between humanity and the Galactic Council had reached a critical juncture. The human governments, emboldened by their successful rescue operation and the global outrage over the Galactic Council's crimes, were unwilling to back down in the face of the alien civilization's threats. In response to the Galactic Council's ultimatum, the world leaders convened an emergency summit, determined to devise a comprehensive strategy to confront this formidable adversary. They knew that they were facing an enemy with technological and military capabilities that far surpassed their own, but they were also united in their resolve to protect their children and their way of life. "We cannot afford to be passive in the face of such blatant aggression," the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom stated, her voice firm and unwavering. "The Galactic Council has shown us the depths of their cruelty, and we must respond with the full force of our collective might." The discussions were heated and at times contentious, as the world leaders debated the best course of action. Some advocated for a diplomatic approach, believing that reason and negotiation could still sway the Galactic Council. Others, however, argued that the time for diplomacy had passed, and that only a decisive military response could ensure the safety of the remaining captive children and the future of humanity. In the end, the decision was made. Humanity would stand its ground and confront the Galactic Council head-on. The world's military forces were mobilized, their advanced technology and strategic prowess honed to a razor's edge. The stage was set for a conflict that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. As the Galactic Council's forces amassed on the outskirts of Earth, the human defenders braced themselves for the coming onslaught. They knew that the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew that failure was not an option. Dr. Emily Sinclair, having played a pivotal role in uncovering the Galactic Council's crimes, found herself at the center of the impending battle. She had been tasked with providing the military commanders with the intelligence and strategic insights they needed to counter the alien civilization's advanced technology and tactics. "This is our last chance to save those children and protect our future," Sinclair said, her voice tinged with a mixture of fear and determination. "We cannot afford to fail. The very fate of our species hangs in the balance." As the Galactic Council's massive fleet of ships descended upon the Earth, the human defenders sprang into action, their advanced weaponry and defensive systems unleashing a barrage of firepower that shook the very foundations of the alien vessels. The battle raged on, with both sides employing every tactic and technological advantage at their disposal. The skies above Earth were ablaze with the exchange of laser fire and the deafening roar of the warring spacecraft. Sinclair and her team worked tirelessly, feeding the human commanders with real-time intelligence and tactical guidance. They knew that every second counted, as the Galactic Council's forces continued to press their advantage. Amidst the chaos, the bravery and resourcefulness of the human defenders began to take its toll on the Galactic Council's forces. Though outmatched in terms of technology, the human soldiers fought with a ferocity and tenacity that caught their alien adversaries off guard. "They're relentless," one of the Galactic Council's commanders reported, his voice tinged with a rare note of panic. "We're sustaining heavy losses, and their defenses are proving far more formidable than we anticipated." As the battle raged on, the fate of the captive children remained at the forefront of the human defenders' minds. They knew that failure was not an option, and that they were fighting not just for their own survival, but for the future of their species. In the end, the human forces managed to hold their ground, inflicting significant damage on the Galactic Council's fleet. The alien civilization, faced with the unexpected resilience and determination of their human adversaries, was forced to retreat, their plans of conquest and domination thwarted. As the dust settled, the world erupted in a collective sigh of relief and triumph. The human race had stood its ground against a formidable foe, and the message had been sent. Humanity would not be cowed or subjugated, no matter the cost. But the celebration was tempered by the knowledge that this was just the beginning. The Galactic Council had tasted defeat, and they would surely return with even greater force, determined to reclaim what they had lost and crush the human spirit once and for all. The stage was set for the final, decisive confrontation, and the fate of the abducted children, as well as the future of humanity, hung in the balance. The respite after the initial clash with the Galactic Council was brief, as the alien civilization regrouped and prepared to unleash their full might upon the human defenders. The world leaders, having tasted victory in the first battle, knew that they were in for the fight of their lives. "They won't stop until they have destroyed us," the President of the United States said, his face etched with a grim determination. "We must be ready to meet them with everything we have." Across the globe, the human military forces worked tirelessly to fortify their defenses, upgrading their technology and honing their strategic capabilities. They knew that the Galactic Council would not hold back this time, and that the very survival of their species hung in the balance. At the forefront of the human resistance stood Dr. Emily Sinclair and her team of scientists. They had been working around the clock, leveraging every ounce of their expertise to provide the military commanders with the intelligence and technological advantages they needed to counter the Galactic Council's formidable arsenal. "We've discovered a weakness in their defensive systems," Sinclair announced, her voice filled with a mixture of triumph and trepidation. "If we can exploit it, we might just have a chance." The military leaders listened intently, their eyes narrowing as they absorbed the details of Sinclair's plan. It was a bold and risky strategy, one that would require precise execution and a tremendous amount of courage from the human defenders. "We'll do it," the Commander-in-Chief of the United Nations military forces declared, his voice unwavering. "It's our only chance to save those children and protect our future. We'll put everything we have into this final stand." As the Galactic Council's massive fleet approached, the human defenders braced themselves for the imminent onslaught. They knew that the stakes had never been higher, and that the fate of the abducted children, as well as the future of their entire civilization, hung in the balance. The battle that ensued was a brutal and relentless affair, with both sides employing every tactic and technological advantage at their disposal. The skies above the Earth were ablaze with the exchange of laser fire and the deafening roar of the warring spacecraft. Sinclair and her team worked tirelessly, feeding the human commanders with real-time intelligence and tactical guidance. They knew that every second counted, as the Galactic Council's forces continued to press their advantage. Despite the overwhelming odds, the human defenders fought with a ferocity and determination that caught their alien adversaries off guard. They unleashed a barrage of weaponry that shook the very foundations of the Galactic Council's ships, their advanced technology and strategic prowess proving to be a formidable match for the alien civilization's superior firepower. In the midst of the chaos, a team of elite human special forces operatives launched a daring infiltration mission. Their objective to penetrate the Galactic Council's command center and disrupt their communications and control systems. The mission was fraught with danger, as the human soldiers navigated a labyrinth of heavily fortified defenses and alien patrols. But their training and dedication proved to be their greatest assets, and they fought their way through the chaos, determined to reach their target. As the battle raged on, the fate of the captive children remained at the forefront of the human defenders' minds. They knew that failure was not an option, and that they were fighting not just for their own survival, but for the future of their species. In the end, the human Special Forces team succeeded in their mission, disrupting the Galactic Council's command and control systems and throwing their forces into disarray. The human defenders, seizing the opportunity, unleashed a devastating counterattack that pushed the alien civilization's forces back. But the victory came at a heavy price. Scores of human lives were lost in the battle, and the Galactic Council's retaliation was swift and unforgiving. As the dust settled, the human commanders knew that they were facing their final desperate stand. "We've given it our all," the commander-in-chief said, his voice heavy with the weight of sacrifice. "Now it's up to us to ensure that those children and our future are protected, no matter the cost." With a renewed sense of purpose, the human defenders braced themselves for the final, decisive confrontation. The fate of the abducted children, as well as the very existence of their civilization, hung in the balance. As the Galactic Council's forces regrouped and prepared to launch their final assault, the human defenders steeled themselves for the ultimate test. They knew that the odds were stacked against them, but they also knew that they were fighting for something greater than themselves, the future of their species, and the promise of a world free from the cruelty of the Galactic Council. The final clash between humanity and the Galactic Council was a brutal and unforgiving affair, with both sides fighting with every ounce of their strength and determination. The human defenders, pushed to the brink of annihilation, summoned a last reserve of courage and resolve, unleashing a devastating counterattack that caught their alien adversaries off guard. As the smoke cleared and the dust settled, the Galactic Council's once formidable fleet lay in ruins, its shattered vessels a testament to the tenacity and resilience of the human race. The alien civilization, battered and humbled, had no choice but to retreat, its ambitions of conquest and domination shattered by the unwavering spirit of the human defenders. Dr. Emily Sinclair, her face etched with a mixture of relief and sorrow, surveyed the aftermath of the battle. The cost had been high, with countless human lives lost in the desperate struggle to protect the abducted children and defend their home. But in the end, the sacrifice had been worth it. The Galactic Council's crimes had been exposed, and their power had been broken. "This is just the beginning," Sinclair said, her voice carrying a newfound resolve. "The Galactic Council will answer for their actions, and humanity will ensure that such atrocities never happen again." Across the globe, the human population erupted in a chorus of celebration and thanksgiving. The news of the Galactic Council's defeat spread like wildfire, igniting a wave of renewed hope and pride in the resilience of their species. The rescued children, their spirits still fragile from the horrors they had endured, were reunited with their families, their eyes shining with a renewed sense of wonder and determination. They had seen the depths of the Galactic Council's cruelty, but they had also witnessed the unwavering strength and courage of the human defenders who had risked everything to save them. As the world leaders gathered to assess the aftermath of the conflict, they found themselves faced with a new and daunting challenge: how to forge a lasting peace with the Galactic Council and ensure the safety and well-being of the remaining captive children. "We cannot simply return to the status quo," the President of the United States declared, his voice firm and resolute. "The Galactic Council has committed unforgivable crimes, and they must be held accountable. We will not rest until every single abducted child is returned to their families, and the Council's leaders are brought to justice." The demands for reparations and a comprehensive global response echoed across the world, As the human race refused to be cowed by the Galactic Council's might, governments and international organizations came together, pooling their resources and expertise to devise a comprehensive plan of action. Dr. Sinclair and her team of scientists played a vital role in this process, providing the critical intelligence and strategic insights needed to navigate the complex diplomatic and legal landscape. They knew that the path ahead would be arduous, but they were more determined than ever to see their mission through to the end. As the negotiations with the Galactic Council progressed, tensions remained high, with both sides wary of the other's intentions. But the human representatives, emboldened by their recent victory, refused to back down, demanding full transparency and accountability from their alien counterparts. In the end, the Galactic Council, faced with the overwhelming global condemnation and the threat of further military action, had no choice but to concede defeat. They agreed to the unconditional return of all the abducted children, as well as the payment of substantial reparations to the affected families and governments. The moment the last child was reunited with their loved ones, the world erupted in a collective sigh of relief and joy. The scars of the ordeal would take time to heal, but the human race had proven its resilience and its unwavering commitment to protecting its most precious resource, its children. As the global community turned its attention to the task of rebuilding and healing, Dr. Sinclair found herself at the forefront of a new movement, one dedicated to ensuring that the Galactic Council's crimes would never be repeated, and that humanity would take its rightful place among the stars as a powerful and respected force. "We have shown the Galactic Council that we are not to be trifled with," Sinclair said, her voice filled with a newfound confidence. "We have defended our children, our way of life, and our future. And now we will ensure that our voice is heard, and our place in the galaxy is secure." With the abducted children safely returned and the Galactic Council's ambitions thwarted, the human race emerged from the conflict stronger and more united than ever before. The scars of the ordeal would never fully heal, but the resolve and determination of the human spirit shone brighter than ever, a testament to the unwavering resilience of a civilization that had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious.